Good morning, everyone. My name is Jesus Daniel Salinas Bautista, and I'm going to present to you the following work named Ludic Activities to Strengthen Receptive Skills in Secondary School Students. In order to start, of course, I have the structure of the receptional document, which is guiding this presentation, and this work is going to help me to achieve to try to get the bachelor's degree in secondary education specialized in foreign language English. We start with the introduction, of course, in order to know the whole document, what is it about, and what are the intention that it has, the formative sense that it has with me. Then we have the topic, um, one of the most important things, the problem and thematic line. How did I detect that problem, and how and what thematic line am I basing my work on? Then I have the research questions and the purposes, which are really related. Research questions are the ones which are guiding all the work, and the purposes are the things that I'm trying to achieve with the implementation of these proposals. Then I have the chapter one, which is knowing the subject. That's the name of the chapter. Of course, all this chapter is about how students learn, um, what is around the school, what is around the students, the community, what is into the school for students to learn. The diagnostic, which is a tool which helped me to detect the problematic of the students. This diagnostic is divided in three, which I will explain later. Then we have the group of study, which is of course the group that I'm going to work with, the methodologies and some key concepts to use in the essay. And in the chapter 2, I developed the activities. I have 4, and I will speak about them later as well. Then I have the references and the annexes. Okay, we start with the research questions. I have 3 research questions and 3 purposes. The first research question is, how does context influence students' learning in order to strengthen the listening and reading abilities? Then we have, what impact do ludic activities have in students' learning? And last but not least, what is the impact that these ludic activities are going to have in my teaching practice? The purposes are to know how the context influences and to strengthen listening and reading abilities, identify the impact that ludic activities have in my students' learning, and to know the impact that implementing teaching strategies have in my teaching practice. Of course, all of this is related and is about the student, it's about my teaching practice, it's about the learning of my students. Then we start with the context. First of all, the name of the school is Escuela Secundaria Federalizada número 141 Felipe Carrillo Puerto, which is located on San Agustín Atlapulco, Chimalhuacán, Estado de México. Then, around the school, there are some local food stores. In these local food stores, some teachers go out of the school and buy food. Sometimes, some teachers have told me that they have been robbed when they are out of the school, and that's why each time there are less teachers going out to buy food. Instead, they rather to bring their own food to the school, or to buy food from the grocery store inside the school. Then we have the motor taxi stations. There are some motor taxi stations outside of the school. These motor taxi stations, well, they're quite a thing, because motor taxi drivers smoke and sell marijuana. Sometimes they're drinking beer. Sometimes they are smoking tobacco, and it is right in the corner of the school. So students see that daily. Daily, they are seeing that, and it of course influences in some students to smoke and to buy marijuana. It is really dangerous for them. Then we have a sports center. The sports center is next to the school. This sports center is really helpful for some students, because some students go there to take swimming classes, and these swimming classes help them to, of course, to know how to swim, but mostly it helps them to be committed with what they do. For example, all the students that I know that go and take swimming classes in the sports center are really committed. They're organized in their times. They're always doing their homeworks. Even though there are some students which do not go to the sports center to take swimming classes, they don't do their homeworks. But the students which go to the sports center to take the swimming classes, they do their homeworks because they are more organized. They know how to do their things. They are more focused on what they have to do. Then we have the school. The school has 15 classrooms, 5 classrooms per grade. Then they have 2 media rooms and they have a library. There are 31 teachers, the principal, the vice principal, and 4 people for maintenance of the school. The media room, which I'm going to work with it has one projector, 60 laptops provided by the government, one computer working as server. They have speakers and they have internet provided by the government, Mexico Conectado. This service of the internet provided by the government was actually working when I used it, but currently it is not working anymore. I don't know why. Then we can speak about the group of study. I applied the diagnostic exam in 4 groups, which are the first A, first B, first C, and first D. Based on the results of that diagnostic exam, I chose the first A because it had the lowest level in general in the 4 skills. Um, there, we will check the graphic of their or the 4 skills in one moment. Then their lowest skill with these students is listening, followed by the reading. That's why I chose receptive skills because the receptive skills are the lowest. Then we have receptive skills in general are the problem. What I have just told you. The main perceptive channel is auditory, followed by visual. This is why I'm always trying to speak them in English, and of course, I give them some visual material in order to work with it. It is also useful to know their perceptive channels in order to know how can I approach them. And of course, all of this led me to choose the topic or to write a topic which is ludic activities to strengthen receptive skills in secondary students. Of course, my ludic activities are more focused on auditory and visual students. Here are the results of first A. In speaking, just 45% of my students passed the exam and 55% did not pass. This is actually the third highest, the second highest. Then we have reading with 27% passed and 73% did not pass. Listening, just 10% of the students passed, 90% of the students did not pass the exam. And writing, 38% of the students passed and 62% did not pass. It is actually a really sad situation. As we can see, they just passed the writing exam, and speaking was close to half of the students to be passed the exam, but reading and listening are really low. They don't have knowledge of English at all. And then we have facts about the topic. Of course, all of those are focused on reading and listening. It's in general all these quotes tell us that reading and listening are very useful in order to know English, to understand English. If they listen, they will be able to get more vocabulary, to know the stress sounds, the pitch, the intonation, and how the words have to be pronounced, and how can words be connected in order to form a sentence or to develop or to build up vocabulary. Reading is also really useful. If they read more, they're gonna get more vocabulary. They're gonna know how to spell a word, how a word must be written. These quotations are by Jeremy Harmer in 1998. And at the end, I have a quotation from Krashen, which says that we're able to understand language containing unacquired grammar with the help of context, which includes extra linguistic information, our knowledge of the world, and previously acquired linguistic competence. The strategies, most important. In order to achieve the purpose to improve my students' learning, I worked with 4 strategies, which are Fairy Tale Bingo, an electronic quiz Kahoot, and Racing to the Fly, and sketch note reading. The Fairy Tale Bingo, this is visual material, as I have told you. This visual material, um, bingo, I presented them with the topic of fairy tales. I presented them a bingo with all the characters that we checked in the classes of fairy tales, and we were playing with it. It helped them to relate what they were listening, the names of the characters, the names of the situations, with what they were seeing, and this attacked attacked their perceptive channels, which are auditory and visual. Then we have an electronic quiz Kahoot. This was Kahoot is an electronic platform, which is kind of a test. In this one, they uh, compete one against other in order to know who can answer the questions the faster, uh, and who can answer them, of course, correctly. This was really fruitful because students were really happy with it. I mean, with bingo too, but with this one, it's kind of a new strategy because they have never worked with internet, with an internet for study. They were really happy with it. It worked because students really learned a lot with it. Of course, there were some little failures with electronics because these are electronic devices and we cannot control them as we would like. And with the internet service, of course, we had Racing to the Fly, and this one they had some flashcards around the classroom, and they had to if when they heard the name of one of them, they had to hit it with a fly, and it was with the topic of proper and common nouns. They had to hit the flashcards, and once they hit correctly, they had to paste it on the whiteboard, which was divided into improper and common nouns. It also helped them to know what they were listening because the flashcards did not have the names of the objects on them, and they had to relate it. And finally, I have the sketch note reading. I there's several readings in the book, in the student's book, as well as in the reader's book, and this sketch note helps me to like mime what the reading says in order to transmit them for them to understand what the reading is trying to tell them. It helps them because they write the vocabulary that they don't understand, and they have to to get that new knowledge. And if they don't know the words, they can learn them with this strategy. And I have the references, and that's it. And thank you very much for your attention.